kind of calm and relaxing, and music just really works for me. I don't know that it works for everybody, but it works for me. Okay. So, last time, we figured out nothing. We're in a weird spot. I don't think either of these... Well, this will be useful once we can bump it up to +2. To get that second, thing, but... Wait. We have one upgrade point. We don't have the points to do fuck all. Why would it tell me I have upgrades available? So what I think our options are in terms of this is I think we need to hit this up. And if we can get 2 goods, we're golden. Ah, yes. So I was under the perhaps mistaken impression that the Haifa? I should have looked this up. I made sure to look up Flotilla, but I didn't think to look up this one. Okay. But I think the grove is what we actually want. We need spores, we need some mushrooms for other purposes. Dang. Okay, we are good in terms of that. Where the hell is it? Is it back further? It's back further. I thought it was not. I think something else wanted spores as well. Not recalling offhand what it was, though. Ah. So in 6 cycles, we'll see that. That's not actually what I wanted. I do like that the 20% does not actually change anything with regards to feeding the stray. Okay. Okay, so we have a lot of things for mushrooms. Ah, this is the spore. Okay. So I think we need a grand total of 6 caps. Because we need them for the aid. It's either 3 or 5, I'm not certain. We also need some for Emphas. We want to clear the aviary anyway. Oh, did we get a repair job for Bliss? Let's check that first. Because if that's the case, I think her stuff is mostly limited time. Or at least it has been so far. No. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's genuinely not a very large concern. Farm stacks. Farm stacks. Ah, money. Interesting. Okay. So this loads you up for food, but you need to have a good roll to not be fucked on it. And I mean, let's be real honest, 90% of the time we tend to be in a pretty good spot as far as food goes, as far as energy goes. Let's see what our buddy Emphas wants. Ah. No. I think I'm gonna go with grabbing some. Oops, keep flicking the wrong one there. Grabbing some spores, since that will dang, that'll provide the most benefit in terms of that. Especially if we can find out what the fuck that seed's for. No, I don't... Oops. I said I keep clicking on it. I don't know why. It should be fine. Oh, fucking course. It's weird that these are broken up into one item per action, whereas a lot of other things that are similar have been broken up into the 3. Rico's grateful for the contribution. Sleeper, you warm my heart with each delivery. Thank you. Okay. Sleeper, Rico greets you without so much as looking up from her work. As some of yours here. Come see. She beckons you over to a heavyweight-looking console, wired to a series of specimen jars, some of which contain your spores. What's it say? Spores you have here are a real cocktail, selection of types from within the groves. But I've been able to isolate a few. She taps one of the specimen jars. Here we have Tricoloma matsutake. Rico breezes through the Latin and Japanese pronunciation as if it was nothing. Well, the Japanese is nothing. Japanese is consistent as far as pronunciation goes. The species Solheim somewhat modified for use on the station. She brings up a panel on her console showing a chemical composition, all gradiated bars and obtuse acronyms. This is a composition of the Solheim modified Matsutake spores. Modified? Yeah, every species on the eye is a tweaked variant of Solheim's, of course. But that's not the point. Rico brings up another panel, identical in layout. Excuse me. But with wildly different colors and numbers. You see, this is what your Matsutake spores look like. They aren't the same? That's the conclusion, yeah. Rico glances at the specimen jar as if it might have something to add. They are fundamentally the same spores, but they carry different chemicals, different signals. She leans back and sighs. Solheim may have introduced their own tweaked versions in the beginning, but the groves have and still are affecting them. Do they still grow? Exactly what I wondered. She moves to another desk where two trays sit side by side. The first contains nothing but plant mulch. The second you smell before even looking at it, the pungent aroma of the fruiting matsutake like rotting sadhana overalls laced with an edge of spice. The matsutake here are grown from Solheim stalks, pulled from a spore vault in the complex. She winks. They are delicious, by the way. She sets them aside. The empty tray is germinated with the spores you collected. No activity, no germination, nothing. But the groves are full. Yes, they are. Rico looks at you directly, and you suddenly realize how much she's enjoying this. So here is our puzzle, Sleeper. Spores from the groves won't grow in the lab, but gathering fruiting bodies in the groves is too unpredictable. We need to grow a fruiting body from some of these spores, so we can track it and understand it. In short, I need you to become my mushroom farmer. Actually, I already started. Rico looks impressed. Well, an eager mycologist. I'd have never have guessed. I assume you set yourself up in the aviary? I've been eyeing that place up for its proximity to the groves. I assume that's supposed to be if you've actually done anything in the aviary. Bring me whatever grows, not just matsutake. There's more than a couple variants in there, so I'll need plenty of samples. She plucks a matsutake cap from the tray. These little things are reflections of their condition, their smell, their taste, their chemistry. It all derives from the conditions of their growth. She smells the cap. Enough of these, and we'll have a picture of what's happening here. Of the ways in which the biosphere is modifying itself, or being modified, whichever the case may be. Rico pops a matsutake cap into her mouth, taking you by surprise. And don't worry, Sleeper, she says while chewing softly. If this turns out to be a dead end, I'll make sure that not a single mushroom goes to waste. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, this is what we really need, ultimately. I'm fine with spending some cryo on food. I think the stacks let us do that, right? Yeah. That way we don't even need to leave. That's fine. Okay. So this is going to be bliss? Yep. Sleeper! Moritz is waiting for you on your way out. How have you been? Busy. I see, he nods. Well, get right to it. Let's let me down. We scored another contract, and she needs your help. It's a message. Pauses. Look, I know last time payment didn't come through, but you did good work. Bliss knows that. No problem. Okay then, he pauses again. She's doing her best, you know? I know. He nods. See you up there. Moritz turns and strides off, leaving you in the corridor. Time to help Bliss, and maybe this time you think to yourself it'll work out. No timer? Interesting. Okay. I mean, that's not a huge number. Though I think we may ultimately be better off dropping this in there just to give us a better chance of doing this. Well, if we get a positive with either of these, and we're golden. We'll need to spend cash on food, but you and Bliss are floating in the bay's airlock, waiting for it to cycle. Pick a few leaves from your clothes as you wait. They float around the chamber as if carried by a lazy wind. Clean work. Bliss bows a little. Well, thank you, Sleeper. You didn't do so bad yourself. She checks her tool belt. Seems like we're good at getting into a good rhythm. The now familiar sequence of clunks and rattles sound out, and then the door hisses open. Moment it does, you know something has once again gone wrong. What's all this? Bliss asks a confused-looking Moritz. Beside him are a set of crates anchored to the bay floor. He's clearly just brought them in through the bay's freight lock. Moritz looks nervously between the two of you before answering. It's payment. He runs a hand along the crate. The Sycamore Seed crew just brought them over. He stops, but seeing the look on Bliss's face adds, they were very thankful. I bet they were, she clenches her fist. What the hell's inside? Moritz leans over and struggles with the catches on each side of the top crate. As he does, Bliss turns to you. Don't say it. Bliss stares into space. Don't you dare say it. Say what? You know, she looks back at you. This isn't my fault. Moritz finally gets the catches free, and as the lid flies off, drifting up into the bay. As it does, a small brown lump floats up with it. Moritz reaches out and catches it as it passes him. Is that a mushroom? Bliss finishes. A damn mushroom. They paid us in mushrooms? Not just mushrooms. He holds out a clump of tightly packed leaves. Produce. Bliss starts laughing. Goddamn Haifa commune. Should have known they didn't have a chit to rub between them. She knocks a small brown mushroom across the bay. Stop, Bliss. Moritz grabs her hand. These are good. Fresh. We can sell them. To who, Moritz? Are we running a grocer's now? We need cryo, otherwise this whole bay will be shut down. We can't pay for parts with leafy greens. She waggles them in Moritz's face. I mean, I can use them. Bliss raises an eyebrow. What? 4 whole crates? Even you can't be that hungry. You can take a few, but the rest will sell. She smiles to herself, or at least Moritz will sell them if he's so eager. Moritz closes up the crates and starts moving them. It isn't that bad, Bliss. It's a step in the right direction. He glances at you, looking for backup. Well, so well. Bliss says, Look, looks like I went into business with a couple of wannabe farmers. She laughs. Prove me wrong, then. Show me this is a windfall. She kicks away towards the new patched-together terminal. Until then, I'll be working on how to keep this place open. Moritz's mouth says, Thank you, and goes back to moving the crates. You better be on your way, too. Well, we get some mushrooms. Although the funny thing is, that actually does mean that our emphasis stall is still closed, so we have to go across the bay. That's fine. I don't remember where the food is. Oh yeah, it's at the start. As I keep clicking on everything wrong. It's at the farm stacks. And with the dorm, we can... And we're good. We'll have another cycle with 5 dice. Not the most important thing, but... Ah, so this is why we need more spores. Dang. Of fucking course. The second one comes up goddamn positive. Okay, so we're waiting on growth there. If we cross, we should be able to talk to Emphas, maybe see about getting food from him. Emphas is preparing the girl caps. He's had to heavily adapt this recipe, he says. It smells already incredible. It emanates from a strange purplish white bulb we've never seen before, and he's slicing it finely. He brushes and slices the mushrooms and places them in the wok with the sliced bulb and the oil, caramelized there in that well-worn crucible. He adds liquids, transparent and opaque, and then turns down the heat. A sprinkle of leaves is the final touch. We have a moment, sleeper. He smiles. Do you have a story? Something in the scent of the food gives you a feeling of nostalgia, something distant and melancholic. It seems like the story should match that feeling somehow, and maybe you'll feel better for it. All your oldest memories. Start by explaining that when you're emulated from a person, many of your memories are left behind. Perhaps it's an intentional part of the process, a way of keeping sleepers ignorant and malleable. Perhaps it's a side effect of the imperfect emulation. You admit that you don't really know. What you do know is that some memories survive, and that on occasion they come back to you like shadows passing overhead. You detail one recurring memory, which, despite returning to you with enough regularity for you to think it familiar, always fades as quickly as it arrives. You struggle to explain that feeling of being whole for a moment that comes with this memory, and then how the wholeness slips away to leave you feeling like you've forgotten something important, but just can't bring to mind. Emphas nods throughout, cooking as he does with deft and skillful movements. You start to trail off and you realize you can't find the words to explain how the memories you do have feel like both yours and someone else's at the same time, and how that always fills you with a certain sadness. The sadness of remaining forever unknown, even to yourself. Emphas finishes cooking and meets your eye. I'm sorry, sleeper, for your troubles. He puts the wok to one side. I appreciate you sharing with me. He smiles. I hope it lightens you a little. He passes you a bowl, heaps girls onto it, their yellow color mixing with the pale sauce and whorls and blooms. Eat. The dish is delicious, filling. It warms you as you eat in a way you weren't even sure your body could be warmed. It's a small mercy, you think, that SNR left you this pleasure. Many of the features of frames are there to simulate human experience, you know that much. Emulated minds cannot be rewired, so their need for embodied experience must be met. That's why you breathe even when you don't need air. Without that simulation, the sensation of drowning would be unbearable. Food serves another purpose. Your frame is able to metabolize it to produce energy from the raw material. Vitamins and minerals are excess, of course. Your frame only needs raw power, so much is wasted. And yet, while you eat this food and feel that warmth, nothing feels wasted. It all means something to you. As you finish, Emphas takes the bowl, the last of his cleaning. He smiles at you, and neither of you feel the need to say anything more. Instead, you simply exchange nods, walk back your separate ways, back into the bright market, somehow changed. Nice. Okay, so once we get some Matsutake caps, we can probably have a similar type experience. Well, oh, we're waiting on that. Do we have anything we need at the commune? Doesn't really appear so. Yeah, mostly even odds, but a chance of another 5 die day is always worth it. Actually, let's see the... Where is it we need? Obviously that, but... This. Okay, so... One, that's kind of designed for later game than I think we are. Although who knows, we might, given that we are near full on stats, we might be considered late game. This is actually not that difficult to finish up though. With just the caps. And if we keep doing that, we'll be able to give her the gardener's seed. I don't know what the neutral action is. Oh, the neutral is plus energy. That sucks. Fortunately, this is not requiring too many caps, as mentioned. Rico meets you at the entrance to the lab, leaning on her crutch with a glint in her eye. Walk with me, sleeper. I'd like to tell you a story. She makes her way back down the corridor that leads back up towards the main commune building. When people first crossed what we call Founder's Gap into the Greenway, they did so against the wishes of Andre Erlin. At the time, Erlin was trying to stabilize the Union, establish control over the Eye in the wake of the Solheim's collapse. It was chaos, competing factions, failing systems, so many dead and injured from the riots, and that was his priority. You both crossed through a glass-roofed tunnel, the greenway outside crowded with vines and branches dappling the light. Erlin had written the greenway off, cut off from the rest of the station and linked to a broken spoke. He claimed it was only a matter of time before everything here would die. He refused to let anyone abandon their duty to the Union and cross. They were traitors to the cause, or as good as. Rico continues, making her slow but steady way into the inner gardens of the commune. There weren't many of us, but we believed what was here was worth saving. We had to keep our plan secret until we crossed, and some of us left people behind. She pauses to catch her breath, her voice cracking. It's difficult to know if it's from effort or emotion. What we found was a disaster, nothing like what you see here. Half of the greenway was leaking oxygen into space, the plants flash frozen. The other half was a swamp of mulch as decaying matter clogged every system. We worked hard, we lost good people, we cleaned up and closed up. It was never going to be enough. After many, many cycles, we all knew this place was doomed, but we kept on working, talking less and less because we couldn't face it. We all developed a death wish. If the Greenway was going to die, so would we. But it didn't die. It did not, Rico smiled. We crossed some invisible boundary, tipped some biological scale, and the Greenway started to recover. Plants flowered, crops sprouted. For the first time, we reaped the fruits of our labor. Rico smiles, looking up at you. We thought it was us, that we managed to do just enough to end the cycle of decay. I thought we had saved Greenway. Until today. We pass on the grow beds of the commune, rich with the hustle and bustle of Haifa members planting and harvesting. For a while, Rico's quiet, and you both simply observe the hypnotic movements of the work crews, the eager chatter washing over you like a wave. Rico smiles to herself. I should have known, of course, that our arrogance was unfounded, but we needed to believe back then. We needed a myth to bring more people across the gap. You both move into a smaller corridor, Rico following some direction unknown to you. What you've shown me is that back then, the Greenway saved us, not the other way around. Tell me, have you ever consumed one of the matsutake or gyro caps that you've been growing? Yeah. Imagine they were delicious, nutritious, almost uniquely so. After all, they were designed for you. Rico has a mischievous look. At first I thought it was location they were grown in that made the mushrooms from the aviary, from the lab, or from the grove different to each other. But what I've come to understand is that it's the person growing them. The matsutake and gyro caps that you brought me are totally unique, containing compounds never usually found in similar specimens in my possession. Many of these compounds aren't even digestible for humans, but for a sleeper like you... Rico smiles as she leads you into the internal garden of the commune, where the Haifa members have planted species from all over the Greenway. Back when the tide turned, the Greenway started to recover. We all felt something, a response. It was as if this place was not just alive, as a forest is alive, but alive in other ways. Communicative, responsive. We shrugged it off at the time, but now I understand why. Rico stops and turns to you. This place, it's responding to us, adapting itself to us. It's growing fruiting bodies for you, for me. It's adapting, changing. It is, in short, displaying all the signs of sentience. How? Well, that's what I want to know too. What being is in control here? Rico sits on a bench within the peaceful gardens, and gestures for you to join her. When you've been growing the girls and the matsutakes in the aviary, those species so familiar to the Greenway, have you discovered any others? Not yet. Rico nods. Well, if you do, can I ask that you immediately bring them here? I believe it's only a matter of time before they bloom. Look around the garden, amazed at the sense of peace within it. Rico interrupts the silence. There's a species of mushroom that I haven't seen in years. It's dark, short, shaped like a club. We first found it in those early days when we were working to save the place. It was around the time we first started to lose members. There was succumbing to some infection, some mold growing deep in the dark mulch that drowned this place. At that point, we thought we were lost. And then these mushrooms emerged from that same black mold. We tested them and saw that they contained some compounds that counteracted that mold. They contained an antidote. Of course, as a botanist, I saw this as part of the natural processes of this ecosystem, even if the timescale seemed absurdly short. But what I am wondering is if that antidote was a gift. Rico meets your eyes. Perhaps if you're patient, you'll receive your gift too, sleeper. You both sit for a while, Rico seemingly done telling stories for today. You watch the light playing off the leaves and plants around you, and wonder what forces could be at play in this place. After a while, you stand and leave, with a quiet nod to Rico, leaving her to her memories. Interesting. God, we have like a million fucking things before we can let her see the gardener's seat, I guess. That's fine. And we're not going to use it because it's not going to keep us at 5 dies. Oh man, coming back over for that's actually always useful, worth a while. Turns out. Tala comes to you one shift when the bar's empty, tapping you on the shoulder as you clean the bar. It's ready. She's grinning from ear to ear. Obviously, she grabs you by the arm before you can ask anything, drags you into the back room. Smell hits you immediately when you enter. A cocktail of rich fermentation and chemical sharpness. Room's warm and bright now, newly installed lights making the place look clean, whether it is or not. Tall's already pulled up a couple stools around a metal crate where 2 glasses with a few fingers of pale girl sit inside, waiting. She smiles. I haven't even tried it yet. You can see she's nervous. Both sit at the makeshift table, slight strangeness of the situation making you both jumpy. Tala hands you a glass. Cheers, she says solemnly, knocks the glass back. You do the same. First sensation is burning. Sharp, nose-clearing blast of alcohol that has your frame querying whether you would like to activate safe mode. You gulp the drink back, and it's only then behind the burn that you taste the earthy tones of the mushrooms, the wood and the soil left behind like sediment. Barely there. That's strong. Tala nods vigorously. Oof, that was heavy. As promised, though. You think? She swirls the glass and puts it down. Wait. I have an idea. Tala grabs a metal bottle from the newly installed work surface and adds a few drops of water and... Try again? This time the burn is a warming glow, harsh but fading off. The woodiness less heavy. You taste something floral in among the marshy decay. Something fresh and bright that you never expected to find. Like with the scotch and water? Shock and fucking awe. Both you and Tala meet eyes. It's really good, right? Definitely better. She nods and takes another sip. Damn good. Tala pours out some more girl, then adds some more water. The action has already taken on the quality of a ritual. You both drink. Tala tucks her feet up beneath her on the stool, folding her legs. She looks down into her glass and swirls the liquid thoughtfully. It's growing on me. Tala laughs. Go steady. We need to save some for serving in the bar. She smiles. Thanks for the backup. Clink your glasses together. Tala looks up at nothing in particular. My father opened this place, you know, she says out of nowhere, thoughts suddenly becoming words. It was his attempt at making a life for us, for my family, when we got to the Eye. You refugees? From Sinza, yeah, it's one of Ember's moons. She takes a drink. I don't remember much. I was only tiny when we came. I was just thinking about something my father told me. When he first set this place up, he wanted to call it the Bantian, but he was afraid it'd scare off customers, so he kinda translated it. Hence, the Overlook. And these past few cycles, when I've been in here, I've been thinking that I should rename it. She looks at you. The Bantian. What do you think? What does it mean? Dad said he translated it to Overlook, so something like that maybe. Watchtower, maybe? Lookout? Talos picks up her glass. That settles it then, to the Bantian. You both clink your glasses and drink up. Tala hisses through her teeth. Still harsh. She laughs and suddenly grabs your shoulder. Oh, sleeper. I totally forgot. She stumbles to her feet. She lurches over to a corner of the room, covered with a plastic sheet, and whips it off, like a magician performing a trick. Beneath it is a neat little kitchen, a sink, a work surface, and a compact oven with a hob. Your kitchen. She doesn't give you time to respond. You can come make stuff here anytime. As long as you promise not to raid the mushroom farm. I need those for the girl. I was thinking too that if things pick up, we can start serving proper food at the Bonsion. You like it? Thank you. Tala gives you a hug and quickly stands back. I'm sorry, I'm so glad you're here. She grins. Me too. As Tala tidies away the glasses, you inspect the kitchen, checking that it all works. It's small and salvaged, but after what you've had to put up with, feels like a dream come true. Later, when she's done for the day, Tala comes back through the bar, and you share a glass with the good girl. The one she didn't distill. And this time, you talk about nothing in particular. Sharing stories about regulars, discussing the best place to eat on the eye, which, after everything that's happened, feels like a nice change of pace. When it comes time to leave, you promise to cook for Tala, and agree to let her know which shifts you'll be working in the coming cycles. And then, you slip out into the cool of the rotunda. In this moment, you feel, for once, at home. Oh, that's neat. It changed the name as well. Cute. Let's grab a stabilizer while I'm thinking of it, since it's... Before I do the final... Where is it? This one. Final set of these. I am going to acquire a little stash of stabilizer. Oh hey, it looks like we're at the point where Yatagan agents and I guess probably Hive agents, Haven Age agents, have started to respawn. Let's see what Bliss is up to. Okay, so we have another cycle. We're actually at kind of a weird spot right here where we don't have a huge number of items that we can do. So we need to do that. Yeah, everything else is kind of stuck behind other stuff right now. If we do all of those... we'll be able to go into tomorrow with a... Dang. Just gave us the same dice. With a positive... Or with 5 die. I think... Oh, nice. I forgot that we had +2 to anything since we've not fucking hit anything. We've not had very many engineering actions available to us at all. Yeah, energy's whatever. Sleeper. Moritz is leaning against the corridor wall. It's time. He looks away. Big job just came in. Grand finale. You up for it? I'm ready. Alright then, we're in business. He pushes away from the wall. This has to work, Sleeper. Has to. It looks down. He looks down. If it doesn't... Bliss okay? He frowns. I don't think so, but she isn't hiding that from anyone. Look, Bliss has had a rough time of it. Thought you of all people would understand that. He runs a hand through his hair. Sorry, didn't mean to be. He smiles. Bliss is a good one. She gave me a chance. I owe her. He straightens up. I know you have your own things going on, Sleeper. We all do. But the Bay needs someone. Bliss needs someone. Hell, I need someone to help me keep Bliss from spinning out completely. He scratches the side of his head. Otherwise, there's not much I can do. He shakes his head. And I would hate not to pay back my debts. Moritz stretches. I've got to get back. He nods and walks away. I'm out. See you up there. Okay. And here we have solar window. Selected launch window for the Starward Vector's maiden voyage is closing. This is going to be a tight one. Well, I see where having +2 interface would be good. So, depending, obviously if we get 2 positives out of this, it's not really... Okay, so that tells me everything I need to know there. Okay, so the stuff across in the Greenway hasn't finished up yet, which... I thought it would have. I thought it had only the one left. Okay. A little bit of cryo to help cover all that I've been dropping on shit. Not a terrible idea. Okay, that'll cover a lot of that. Okay, so what can we do in the aviary? Well, we can harvest mushrooms at a much, much better rate than on the field. Now, admittedly, once we take 3, it'll take a little bit of time to recover, but it's fine. Okay. We're actually doing reasonably well. In fact, let's take a bar shift. buy another stabilizer. Because we're going to use one. And let's set up emphasis stall. We'll still have a decent amount of cash. Not ideal. But that fifth die is just a little bit too important, and I mean we can make up the money. Amusingly, as time has gone on, the money has become less and less of a concern. Two. Okay. Inefficient, but that finishes this up. The atmosphere in the airlock is euphoric. You and Bliss keep grinning at each other like idiots. Exhausted, blinded, sore, aching idiots. Sleeper. That was incredible. She punches you on the arm. I never thought we were going to make it. Those idiots tingled the whole thing up like nothing I have ever seen. I'm just glad it's over. Too right. We all need a trip to the gimbal. As the lock's inner door clunks open, Moritz gives a rare whoop. He looks exhausted too, and for good reason. Moritz has been the one ferrying tools and parts back and forth from the ship. His tired smile tells you he's glad it's done. Sleeper, Bliss, he shakes his head. Impressive. When I saw that ship come in, I thought there was no way. Why, thank you, Moritz, she winks, for believing in us. Moritz rolls his eyes. You know what I meant. Take the damn compliment. He shoulders some of the gear that came back in with you and Bliss and heads to the racks to stow it. Bliss turns to you. I think you should be the one to do the honors. She nods to the ragged-looking console that Moritz assembled. I don't want to jinx it. She smiles, but you can see that she is genuinely nervous. Check the console. You glide over to the console, check the screen. Takes a second to see what you're doing through the flickering, cracked display, but after a moment, you see the accounts, and there it is. Almost 1,000 cryos sat in the bay's transfer account. Well, Bliss calls, have we been screwed again? It's there. Bliss kicks off from the floor and spins up into the bay, shouting as she does. The noise takes Moritz by surprise, and he knocks a rack of parts, scattering handfuls of metal fixings across the bay. The sight is something, glinting steel catching the work lights like glitter. Sorry, says Bliss, grinning when she comes back down. I needed that. She kicks off and joins you at the terminal. Moritz even managed to sell that produce. We made a tidy profit. Eventually. She laughs. Here. She loads a stack of blank chits into the terminal and transfers a chunk of the cryo to them. This is your cut. Bliss hands you the chits. Thank you for believing in this place. She looks away and smiles, even when I couldn't. When you first met me, I was on the edge of giving up. All I would have taken was one more push. But now this place is sparking again. Work's coming in. There are funds in the accounts. Even Moritz has a spring in his step. You both look over at him, happily racking up the tools. It's because of you. She punches you on the arm. He likes you. He's a good kid. He isn't bad, is he? She leans closer. You know, he came here looking to rob the place. I gave him a job instead, she laughs. Don't tell him I told you that. I just thought it might help you understand the kid. Moritz turns to look at you, and both Bliss and you awkwardly wave. Maybe it's time to change the subject. You gonna be okay? Me? Always. She looks away. From here on, it's gonna be a little bit easier. I'm gonna look for some component contracts, stuff that will keep us inside the bay, not out in the black. No need to risk our necks if we don't need to. You want to cash out? That's fine. But there'll always be work for here for you when you need it. I appreciate it. She smiles and then out of nowhere quickly gives you a hug. She steps back and glances around reflexively. Take care, she says softly. You too. And Sleeper? Yes? She smiles. Don't spend that all at once. Oh, Jesus. I was not expecting 300. Even when they said 1,000, I was expecting 100. Okay, so and this is just telling us that she will have another... Ooh. One last job, you say? Okay, I will keep that in mind. It feels like a lot of our stuff is into it. Let's grab that. Two random rare. Okay, so we got 2 Matsutake caps. We got some more Matsutake caps. Ideally, we would be getting better mushrooms. The spade club head. I don't fucking remember. Okay. When we wake up, I am gonna drop that scrap component in too, just so I don't forget about it. Well, actually, a 4 works here. Ah, we got a club head cap. That's good. Okay, so that covers the grow mushrooms here. It has... Oh, we just need to get some more spores. Good to know. And then I assume it'll do the 4 turn or whatever the fuck it was. Oh, that is also into it. God, having +2 on into it actually is super useful. I think Emphas wanted Matsutakes. I think otherwise I don't have a huge number of uses for them. Yeah, 4 turn. No, I guess I can cook with them at the bar. That's not the right spot. Matsutake broth. And that's a 3-turn clock? It's a 3-turn clock. So what does this do? Oh, +3 energy. That is genuinely not bad. That's not the one I wanted. This is kind of still the one that I'm most interested in, but it's... There is a 1,000,000-piece goddamn thing there. Let's grab a couple stabilizer. Since our money seems to be a little bit closer to solved. And let's go work for Rabaya. Now the plus scrap components will actually work fantastic here. Oh hell, and we got a plus energy off that. Nice. We get a dream? We do not. Well, I'd prefer dropping a 5 in, but I think plus scrap component is, in this case, worth the cost of admittance. This time you meet inside Rabia's office. Though, now that you've seen it, office seems like the wrong term. You find her stood in an almost bare, shadowy unit, midway through a sequence of stretches. There are 2 low stools and a terminal in the corner, but it seems that most of the space is taken up by a heavy punching bag, rubber matting, and a stack of weights. When Rabia turns to greet you, you realize she's missing an arm. The prosthetic she usually wears is set in a cradle near the terminal, a web of colored wires running to it. I assume it's this one. Her left arm. Also, I appreciate that the art actually represents some of the things that we have heard about her. You know, she's muscular. Oh yeah, actually you can see the cybernetic arm under. I had literally never noticed that until it was brought up. The little circular metal eye cybernetics. Updates, she says, noticing you looking where her arm usually is. Nothing to worry yourself with. Sorry, don't be. I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of more invasive stares than I ever have. You both settle on the stools, Rabia crossing her legs on top and sitting straight back. Gia told me you've been working the rounds, collecting ties, patrolling the ward. She smiles. Some of the enforcers are impressed, and I hear you handled a few difficult circumstances. Nicely done. I wanted to see for myself. She raises an eyebrow. See what for yourself? If I can trust you. I see. Rabia flexes her neck side to side, and the conclusion? I can. Rabia nods. Thank you. She closes her eyes for a moment. I hope you can see how things work from here now. A strong yataghan means a strong low end. Both are woven into each other. I know that for you, life on the eye has been a struggle, but I hope we can do something about that from here onwards. Though some of our members may not see it this way. I know you too are a refugee. She looks at you solemnly. That is why you've come to us. Enough, Rabia. Sabine's voice cuts through the conversation. I'm tired of listening to your affected nobility. They cross the room, Rabia's baton in their hand, the end lit with sparking electricity. Rabia looks between the two of you. I suppose this ambush was another cooperation between you two? She looks strangely unfazed. No, they're acting alone. Sabine pauses, thrown off for a moment by your renunciation. Rabia takes the opportunity to act. She leaps from the stool and, fainting past Sabine, grabs the baton, twisting it inward. She's by far stronger, pushes Sabine to her knees, plunging the crackling end of the baton towards their chest. They freeze there, Sabine struggling to keep the crackling baton from their skin. And see, ultimately this is a matter of we have not seen much of trust from Sabine. We don't know enough about her, one way or the other, to go in on what basically amounts to the local set of enforcers. Stay silent. Sleeper, Sabine calls out, desperate. You are short on allies, Sabine, Rabia gloats. Perhaps even you understand that this foolish crusade will be your end by now. Rabia holds the baton strong. For a moment you think she's about to hammer it down into Sabine's chest, but after a painful wait, she throws Sabine down instead, then switches the baton in her hand, thumbing a switch and shutting it off in a single move. Now what? They both look at you, each still catching their breath as if they'd forgotten about your presence. Rabia cracks her neck. You're lucky I didn't kill you. I would have had every right. She shouts, the anger a release of tension more than a threat. Sabine lifts themselves a bit. Bruised from the fall, they roll onto their side and cough. Rabia gives them some space, sitting back on their stool. Sabine props themselves up on their elbows and fixes Rabia with a hard stare. You have something to say, Rabiatons? Say it. This is your final opportunity, because after this, she laughs. No coming back. What's the point? Sabine breathes heavily. She refuses to listen to criticism of the great Yadigan project. Rabia collects herself. Speak. She folds her arms and waits to be convinced. Sabine takes a breath, organizing their thoughts. They go to start, pause, then decide on another approach. Eventually, they say it. Yannick is a traitor. Rabia immediately flinches, her eyes going to her prosthetic arm, her muscles clenching. But she rides it out, more eager to prove Sabine wrong than she is to hurt them. At least for now. When I came here from SNR, they glance at you, gauging your reaction. It was Yannick who was one of the first to support me, to look after me. I should have known then, but I was naive and afraid. Sabine turns to you. Sleeper. They take a breath. I know that I should have told you I had worked for SNARP long ago, but I thought you would abandon me, and you are my final friend. What you should know is that I left SNARP because I was running for my life. I leaked documents on the Sleeper program, and the illegal and immoral practices it relied on to the press. SNARP wanted me dead, and I fled as far as I could to this refuge at the edge of the surrogate systems. Sabine stops to collect himself. What does this have to do with Yannick? Rabia interrupts. The Sleeper knows you are SNARP. I told them, and while you hide beneath the cover of being a whistleblower, you and I both know you worked on the Sleeper program. Yannick told me as much. Sabine's face falls. It is true. They glance at you and then away, ashamed. They lift their head, but it is Yannick, not me, who is in the pocket of SNR. Rabia flinches again. I can prove it. He made some kind of deal to keep me here, to tie me up in debt, to lock me away. In exchange, Rabia slams her hand on the desk. Just tell us, for God's sake. In exchange for those. Sabine finishes, nodding towards Rabia's prosthetic arm in its cradle. He has been using Yadigan enforcers, using you as test subjects for SNARP technology. I have the data to prove it. He's been bringing them in under the guise of stolen shipments and having me fit them, knowing each one is capturing data and sending it back to its makers. Rabia's fixed expression has started to fade. Sabine produces a slate. It's all here. Thousands of hours of usage data, failure rates, error dumps. These are untested implants, Rabia. They could short out, fail, cause cascading failures across a person's body. And they have. Sabine looks incredibly tired. I thought the error rates in the units was down to them being stolen or modified. I've tried to fix hundreds of failures in my time here. Not all of them. They stop, unable to continue. Rabia closes her eyes and breathes in, then opens them again. She holds out a hand to Sabine. Show me, she says. Later, much later, when you leave, Sabine is still taking Rabia through the manifests and usage data. Both of them crowded around the terminal as Sabine leads Rabia through each layer of Yannick's betrayal. As you leave, Sabine catches your eye, and something passes between you, something like a thank you or a sorry, some other expression that communicates both sadness and hope. Okay. Interesting. Let's hold off on that until we actually see what or if anything that we end up doing really has a strong need for any of those. I think this is still our strongest cryo. Yeah. That's good for food. An additional stabilizer just in case, and let's head out to the wastes. That is endure. we don't have, well, first and foremost, we don't have the stuff for it, but even if we were leveled up. This will either be energy or scrap. Oh, I was mistaken. Ah. So that one, that final one was neutral. That's fine. And I'm gonna drop the last of these at Minji. Which again, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing correctly. But what I have found out relatively recently is, good lord, it is difficult to find out proper Chinese pronunciation on things. Because Google doesn't do it, and the, I guess, Romanization does not do you many favors. Okay. So there we have enough for the one mission we need to do. Forget, what does the waste need? That'll work. I'd prefer it to be a 5, but some of this stuff is, some of these cycles are just basically maintenance, but that's fine. Especially when we're sitting in a spot where we're waiting on other things. Oh, I thought... Don't ask me. I thought we'd spent 2 cycles across the Greenway. Memphis is preparing the matsutake caps. Cleans them carefully with a damp cloth before shaving the stalks as if he were sharpening a pencil. His knife slides through them, revealing the bright white of the flesh within. "These are good, Sleeper. Very good," he says without looking up. "Bartered with Minji for some kelp, too, so we can brew the dashi." Dashi? Soup base. Very good. Memphis slides the sliced matsutake mushrooms to one side. Takes out a closed pan. He opens the lid. See a green wafer of kelp sitting in a bath of water. Been soaking it since last cycle, Memphis explains. Should be good to warm now. Places the pan over the burner and turns it on low. We've some time now. He wipes his hand clean and throws the cloth over his shoulder. However, there is one difference this cycle. He smiles. You have been the one providing the ingredients, so it's my turn to provide a story. Okay. Good. This story is important to me. He gestures for you both to sit on the folding stools behind the stall. You see these? Emphas runs a hand over his forearm, tracing the circular scars that mark them like perfect bite marks. Conway called it an anchored interface rig, a mechanical control device for piloting a heavy-duty extraction suit in low-G industrial operations. We called it a bone suit. He points to a pattern of larger circles on the shoulder. They drill in and anchor it here, all the way down the arm. He taps each scar on the way. It maps mechanical movements to the suit exactly. A 1-to-1 mechanical replication. You swing your arm, a 2-ton arm swings too. You should have seen the recruitment videos. Strong people in stronger suits tearing through stone and scrap. Superheroes. Half my graduating year signed up, from company school to company shuttle. Conway from birth to death. He stares off in the distance for a moment, fighting with the memories. But the bone suits weren't good. The rate of failures were high, and failures meant arms torn off, anchors torn out, broken bones. Bad stuff. So after a while, Conway discontinued him. No longer competitive, they said. Checks the broth, turning down the heat and adding the mushrooms. So there we are, hundreds of us with surgical alterations for suits that didn't work. They sent us home back to that company colony that spat us out to be cleaners, drivers, and cooks. They gave us drugs for the pain and told us to make something of ourselves. When I deserted, bribing some passing spacers to take me into orbit, there were only me and a couple others left. The rest just faded away. Arthritis, osteoporosis, they folded in on themselves like paper lanterns. That was my generation. The anchor points still ache, still burn. He touches the scars, but what burns worse is the betrayal. I've been on the eye a long time, but that'll never fade. Not that, and not the faces of my friends. Emphas reaches over and sprinkles a handful of leaves into the broth. It's ready. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's Conway's crime, and you know better than most what we went through. It's enough that you were here to listen. Emphas pours the broth into a double-walled metal bowl and hands it to you. The heat radiates through your hands and the smell drifts up, rich and sharp, like a pine forest after the rain. You drink the broth slowly, chewing the matsutake and thinking. Emphas busies himself with cleaning the pans and the bowls, sealing the kelp back up for another day. Then he quietly comes to sit with you while you finish your meal. Neither of you speak, preferring instead to let the story linger in the air a little longer. It's not that there's nothing to say, it's that sometimes, in the moments after something, speaking breaks the spell. So you both idle, eager to be in each other's company. Emphas taking longer over his cleaning, his packing, and you savoring the final dregs of your broth. When you finally finish and hand him the bowl, you feel the spell break and the story leaves you both. And as you leave, you know that both of you are somehow a little more empty and a little more full than before. Okay. Well, it's looking ever more likely that what we are going to want to do is that fucking course, is that flotilla aid. Man, we had ridiculous luck there. But we have a lot of things coming up this next turn, this next cycle. Why did I not end cycle? We, of course, have Bliss. We have the Rabia stuff. We have... I think our mushroom stuff is available again. As you enter Rabia's office, you hear voices. Is that Sabine? You push open the door. Sleeper, what good timing, Rabia calls out as you enter. I wanted to introduce you to someone. The man is standing at the center of the room, speaking quietly with Rabia. He turns as you come in. Meet Yannick. Sleeper, he nods. Been hearing good things from Raby. He smiles an easy smile. Good to meet you. Likewise, likewise. He waves a ringed hand. Now, Raby, where were we? Actually, Rabia places a hand on your shoulder. Sleeper was what I wanted to talk to you about. She doesn't spare you a look. What's going on? Well, okay then. Yannick tucks his hand into his pockets. Go on. I'd like to recommend them to your ward. A tiny pause. They have shown themselves to be a capable ally here on the spoke side, but we have more than enough to run our territories. I hear the main block is proving more difficult. Yannick leans forward slowly. It's a mess, Raby. He waits, his tinted glasses shimmering despite the lack of light in unit. I can use them. He suddenly decides. Rabia smiles. Good to hear. I can immediately... Yannick cuts her off with a raised hand. 1 second. He steps one surprisingly light step closer to you. You eager to work, Sleeper? What kind of work? A question. Yannick lowers his head and raises it again as if he dropped something. Nothing new for you, he answers, not quite looking at you. You don't follow. What's he saying? That concludes it, Yannick pronounces. Sleeper can come work in the ward anytime they like. You shoot Rabia a confused look. Rabia finally glances at you for a moment, but it's so fast you almost miss it. Good. I know you'll be happy with their work, Jan. Yannick reaches out and squeezes her shoulder. Sure, Robbie. Now please. He says, turning to face you. Let us old friends get back to it. He guides Rabia away, leaving you standing alone. You look to Rabia, but she's deep in the conversation, and so, stunned and confused, you leave. Okay. So, where, there we go. That's the area for that. Okay. That's not on exactly a timer, so let's head up. Oh. Well, I would say I'm an idiot, but I mean, I just mistook which thing it was set for. Not a huge deal. Okay, nice. Another club head. Hopefully we get another yes. Oh, and once we head back into there, we can set up the spores again. Which explains why the spores are not like a limited time action or anything. Rico's at her bench, running small vials of some liquid through an old chemical analysis machine. The whirring of the spinning drum fills the lab with white noise, and you aren't sure if she notices your approach. Sleeper, good to see you. She looks up, smiling. This little project of ours has been keeping me awake the past few cycles, but right now, well, I think I have something. You should rest. I know my limits, she laughs to herself. I just don't like paying attention to them. The drum finishes spinning, and Rico lifts a vial from it, holding it up to the light. This is something I extracted from those clubheads you've been bringing me. And according to my analysis, it's a substance totally unique to the Greenway. On the Greenway. You look at the small amount of liquid in the vial. Any idea what it might be? Rico asks, without looking away from the vial. Well, it's one of the two. But technically, medicine would cover stabilizer. Medicine. You aren't the first sleeper to come through here. Perhaps I should have mentioned that earlier. Rico's tone suddenly drops, changing the atmosphere in the lab immediately. I just thought. She pauses, thinking very carefully of how to continue. I just wanted you to trust us. What do you mean? They came through a fair few cycles ago. We found them wandering in the broken section near the gap. Members who brought them in had never seen one of you before. They were terrified of this strange person wandering in from open vacuum. They were quieter than you, and damaged. We did our best to patch them up and welcome them to the commune. I only really spoke to them once while I was working on their wounds along with a couple systems engineers. She looks nervously at you. I'd never seen a body like that before. I took some readings, some samples. Samples? You have to understand, I was curious. I didn't know what I was looking at. I just took a little of the damaged material, less than a thumbnail. She shifts her weight to her crutch. The next cycle, they were gone. I took a little food and hiked up toward the wild margins, where the greenway meets the waste. Someone saw them in the distance, but that was it. They disappeared into the overgrowth. She sits down heavily, the vial in her hand. When I saw you, I wanted things to be different. I wanted to keep you here rather than let you disappear into wherever they ended up. She smiles to herself. Yes, I wanted to understand this place better, but I also wanted to help you. It seems that somehow, both of my wishes have come true at once. She holds out a hand with the vial. This is for you. You take the stabilizer, the glass cold and smooth in your palm. How? Those club head caps made it for you, or at least who or whatever made those club heads. She starts to clear her bench. It was right there, contained in their tissue. I only had to extract it. I imagine you understand how incredible that is. I learned enough from that sleeper to know that your body, your frame is it, runs on some exotic technology. Exotic technology that has a time limit built in. Somehow, the Greenway knows that too. It understands your physiology much better than I ever could. It knows how to treat you. Just like that miraculous antidote that sprung from the mold, so too has this sprung from your presence here. The Greenway is speaking to you. It's welcoming you. She looks up. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it to be true. Here's the evidence. And what I also know is that it's no longer speaking to me. Even after decades here, I've never seen this kind of response. Not since the antidote so many cycles ago. She smiles. So I'm going to make you a deal. You bring me as many club heads you like, I'll extract the stabilizer and give it to you freely. But you have to tell me what the Greenway says. You have to speak with it, to dig into it, to find what being is at the center of it. I've traveled as far as I can. I need you to do the rest. Can you do that? Yes. Rico sighs with relief and deflates into her chair. Thank you. I'm sorry for the other sleeper. Truly I am. I'm sorry I couldn't have done more. But I'm so glad I met you. She smiles. You're welcome here anytime. Rico falls silent. She looks smaller now, more fragile. And you realize she must be to have seen the collapse firsthand. You idle a little in the lab, in case she asks for anything, but she remains silent, and so you drift back into the tunnel, thoughts of that other sleeper and where they ended up weighing on your mind. What'll happen? Who knows? We got like, what, 8 cycles? 8 cycles. Which I will definitely remember. Definitely not, ignore entirely in like 5 minutes. And check back a million times. Definitely. Let's go hit up Noodle Place. Do a wee bit of repair and then end this cycle. We have the stuff with Bliss upcoming this subsequent cycle. And we got some decent die rolls. Sleeper, long time. Moritz is smiling at you when you leave, clearly happy to see you again. Moritz, good to see you. Same. He rubs his hand on his jacket. How you been? Really well. Good to hear it. He looks you up and down. I knew you'd make it work. You're a smart one. He glances around. Hey, look, I'm not down here to chat, though. I know Bliss said she didn't want to take any more big jobs, but she changed her mind or something. Because now we have someone looking for a refit of their ship in our bay. You would not believe it. They want their entire ship disarmed. Cutting out defense weapons, weapon lockers, ship-to-ship countermeasures, the whole lot. He leans in. We'll be able to start an arms dealership with all the hardware we'll have up there when we're done. Anyway, it's a massive job and we need some hands. Bliss said to get you. So, come on up. Bliss is waiting on you to accept the job. He pauses. It'll be good to have you up there again. He grins, like old times. It was probably less than a week since last time we did stuff. When you enter the bay, it's weirdly quiet. Moritz must be out on some errand, and maybe Bliss is prepping the kit. Sleeper. Nikita's drifting at one side of the bay. You missed her completely when you came in. The idea of not seeing Ankita when you entered her room would have seemed unlikely to you several cycles ago. But seeing her without her armor, she seems smaller, less imposing. Ankita. She nods and kicks off from the wall, drifting closer. So what is this? Come to avenge Ashton or his sleeper? Or just looking for another payout? Her anger is familiar, but quieter than before. Restrained. I don't want to fight. Then why are you here? She looks away, and you can tell her anger isn't directed at you in particular. It's off her like fire. You better be ready to sign, comes a shout from the bay entrance. Because I've got my best repair tech coming up here especially, and they are going to... Bliss glides in and suddenly stops when she sees you and Ankita standing off. Oh, Sleeper, you're already here. Miss Cassetta, this is the tech I was telling you about. Best on the She stops, looking between the two of you. Wait, do you two know each other? You and Ankita looked at each other. We work together. Bliss squints at you before continuing. Bliss produces a slate. Now, Miss Cassetta, if you'd like to sign our damage waiver here, we can start on the decommissioning. She looks at you. My tech is here is eager to get started, as am I. Ankita scrawls her signature across the slate. Thank you. And everything is okay with the special payment terms we discussed? She gives Ankita a strange smile. All fine, says Ankita, giving you another hard look. Then she kicks off and drifts to the entrance. I'll be in the gimbal, she says, and leaves. Special payment terms? She looks over her glasses at you. Look, Sleeper, there's something I have to tell you. She glances around again. What's she so nervous about? This isn't exactly a typical job, Miss Cassetta. I mean Ankita. She gives you a knowing look. Doesn't have the chits to pay us, so we made a special agreement. I'm leaving. Leaving? Keep it down. I haven't told Moritz left yet. Wait. Keep it down. Okay, so this is just a minor typo. I haven't told Moritz yet. She looks down, just waiting to break it to him. Don't you tell him either. She stares hard at you. I'll tell him when I'm ready, and I don't want him getting worried about Ankita's history. He can be very protective. You should tell him. Look, all I care is that she's heading for the starboard belt. She looks out of the bay. That's where I'm headed. She turns back to face you. Also, I wanted to ask. She stops, unsure. If you'd like to come with us? I can't. She interrupts before you answer. I know things have been hard for you on the eye, and you helped me so much. I asked Ankita if she'd carry two of us, and she said yes. Moritz will take over the bay anyway, although if you stay, you're welcome to help him run it. I just thought, you might be in need of a fresh start as much as I am. She turns away nervously. Think about it anyway. The berth is there. We've got to finish the job first anyway. And with that, she kicks away and heads to the racks, before you can offer an answer. Moments later, Moritz enters with a new cutting torch for the disarming of the ambergris. The starboard belt. You push your thoughts to the back of your mind. Time to get to work. Interesting. So we can get this done this term with this cycle with a little bit of luck. Either with some luck from this one or some luck on a die. Amber looks better than she ever has before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hole, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impression of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Moritz drifts by, and he's been loading up the final equipment onto Amber. It turns out Ankita will be taking her weapons, but packed and ready to sell the first starboard belt port she hits. But now that Moritz is done, he seems in kind of a daze, floating back and forth aimlessly. You okay, Moritz? What's that? Oh, right, yeah, packed and stacked. He smiles a weak smile. Was hoping Miss Cassetta would let me keep a warhead. What do you think her? Miss Cassetta? He shrugs. She seems tired and old, like older than she looks. Hey, Sleeper, did you know Bliss was leaving? You understand now. She told him. That's why he's like this. She's leaving? Uh-huh. Gives you a look. You didn't know? She said this place is mine. He looks up around the bay like it's suddenly some vast space he doesn't know what to do with. You'll do a great job. He looks down at you. Hey, thanks. He smiles. I appreciate you saying that. Not many people believed in me before now. First Bliss, now you. Dark look suddenly crossed his face. Hey, Sleeper. There's something Bliss said. He meets your eye. Are you going too? Before you can answer, Ankita glides into bay, a massive crate on her shoulder. Sleeper, you coming or what? Bliss is already on board. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. Look at Ankita. She's keeping it together now. She's packed all those bad feelings down someplace where you'll never see them, built a tough foundation on top. She may not be a mercenary anymore, but you imagine most people would think twice before trying to cross her. Well, I'm not eager to spend another moment of my time on this station unless I have to. She pauses, looking between you and Moritz. I'll give you a minute. She kicks off the crate, taking to the end of the bay where the Amber sits docked. You look back at Moritz. I'm staying. Moritz looks like he might pass out. Sleeper, are you sure? Are you doing this for me? I'm staying for me. Moritz nods. All right then, you're staying. He grins. Ankita comes back across the bay, the final crate stowed. You staying then, Sleeper? I'm staying. She nods. Well, okay then, one less mouth to feed. She pauses. Look, Sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened, she sighs. I'm trying to put that behind me, but I hope you find what you're looking for here. She smiles and kicks off, gliding to the ambergris and the starboard belt beyond. You both watch in silence as Amber's drives fire up. I guess this is our place now, says Moritz, the weight of everything suddenly hitting him. Your place. He smiles. Okay, but I'll need some help from time to time. You both stay for a while to watch Amber and Bliss and Ankita leave. And then Moritz goes to the racks to finally implement a new organizational system. And you head out, promising to be back to check on things soon. As you glide around the soft curve of the hub, you catch glimpses of the distant stars flickering through the windows. They're beautiful, it's true, but by now, you think of them as distraction. In your time on the Eye, you realize there's nothing out there waiting for you. No fresh starts, no bright futures, just a whole load of problems you haven't found yet. No, your place is here, among the people you know and the problems you know. You wish Ankita and Bliss the best of luck out in the belt, but as you do, you focus on the Eye, on the vast spinning rim that rotates around its hub, on its buildings and flashing lights, on its people and its places. This is your home, and for now, it contains all the futures you need. Hopefully we'll get to continue that one. I have some doubts that we will, but It's not huge if we don't. So, I think that one... I stand pretty firmly by what I said on Twitter, by what I said on co-host. That is, at least so far, that is my favorite game released this last year. I was gonna say season, then I was gonna say year, and then I fucked up and said both. I did look into a little bit of the backstory on it, and apparently Gareth wanted it to be, at times, kind of an examination of what it's like being a person who goes by they, them. And I don't know that it necessarily succeeded in that, but I do know that it was a fantastic game. And that they are a fantastic writer. Oh, excellent. Next round is yours. Moritz arrives at the table with a couple steel drink canisters, typical of the hub's only bar, the Gimbal Lounge. He settles into the webbing beside the table and clunks them down onto the magnetic table. This place, you've decided, is ridiculous. A rapidly spinning, cavernous sphere, the gimbal's weak gravity, just like the gravity at the eye's rim, is created by its gut-wrenching rotation. The interior surface of the sphere is the gimbal's floor, which ascends towards the equator where one long bar loops around the entire circumference. Tumbling out from that central ring are an array of booths and seating arrangements, equipped with all kinds of harnesses and webbing to keep customers in place. Those harnesses are there because the gimbal doesn't quite spin up fast enough, and you watch as clientele bounce towards the bar in lazy arcs or shift from table to table, graceful leaps. "What you thinking?" asks Moritz, noticing you staring out into the gimbal. "How weird this place is." Moritz glances around as if for the first time. "Yeah, Bliss never used to like coming here." Understandable, I think. Moritz takes a drink and stretches. "So, sleeper, you sticking around?" "If you'll have me." "Of course. I'm gonna need help in the bay." Moritz rubs the back of his head. "One cycle at a time. That's how we'll take it. Nice and easy. You aren't sure if he's talking to himself? Or you? So let's start already." Moritz laughs. All right. He lifts his drink for a toast. "To the next cycle," he pronounces, and knocks it back. Later, when you finally leave the gimbal, Moritz is still laughing. You help him out of the spinning gimbal, back into the hub, and send him on his way home to the bay. Then you pause for a moment to watch the stars as they spin around the eye. You smile to yourself and think of Bliss and Ankita out there somewhere, among those points of lights. To the next cycle. Wait. Oh god, the game had spun things around for us. Okay, so we have... I think I'm just going to spend that at Ye Old Noodle Manufactory. How many upgrade points? I'm holding off. Next point we get is going to go towards one of the either interface or endure, but for now it's not hugely important that we get the minor upgrades for either one. Engage, huh? Is that the bottom one? It is. I mean, with some luck, it's not really gonna matter anyway, but... Dang. Wait. Yeah, I don't like using that on there. Especially when even a bad result will, get us... Oof. I didn't realize it was gonna be, conditioned there. You almost laugh when you see it. The same small recorder stuck to a different wall this time. Written across the fluorescent tape is that familiar word. Sleeper. You grab it quickly. Rabia says sorry. Sabine's voice sparks up once again. She said she didn't have time to brief you before setting you up with the old man. I'm sure you've got the play by now. Earn his trust, work the block. Then we need you to get into his office. A pause. It's risky. But obviously you're the only one of us he doesn't already know. Either way, we need to locate the link to SNARP. You hear a shout in the background of the recording. Rabia says to be careful. Sabine continues. The data suggests there's some relay, processing in the implant data and sending it to SNARP. But we can't lock down its position. Either he's moving it, it's moving itself, or it's rerouting through the other relays. Can't quite understand it. Maybe you can find some details on it in his office. Once he trusts you enough, you should be able to get close enough to get into the office. You'll only get one shot. The recording creaks and whines. That's the final piece of the puzzle to end this. Pause. Good luck, Sleeper. I'm sorry too. Be safe. The recording clicks off, leaving you in silence. You pocket the recorder just in case and walk away. Looks like it's up to you. Okay. Well, nothing of this sort has required multiple dice, so I'm fine with this. Onyx asked you to collect his medicine from his office. Now's the only chance to find that SNR relay. I do like how positive, relay located. Negative, relay located. You find the countermeasure on the drawer moments before you touch it. This has to be it, but you can't rush it. You look at the countermeasure on the drawer. It looks like some kind of shock trap. You grab the drawer, you'd likely have thousands of volts running through your system right now. You wince. Once you find the anchor point, it comes away easily enough. You pry it from the drawer quickly and quietly, and listen for footsteps in the corridor outside. Nothing. All clear for now. You slide the drawer open, looking for other countermeasures that might be inside, expecting to see a chunk of tech, the relay. But as you slip it open, all you see is a handful of wires and an empty implant cradle. Is this some kind of mistake? You freeze for a moment, unsure what to do next. Why keep an implant cradle so carefully guarded? You remember Yannick having an implant, a small plate on the side of his head, just above his ear. You assumed it was for hearing or vision. Those shimmering glasses of his come back to you in your memory, his strange movements, his speech. You look again at the cradle, and there it is, printed on the frame. Proprietary technology, property of SNARP. Rabia said the relay moved. They couldn't get a fix on it. What if Yannick was the relay? The thought hits you like a shock. Yannick with a remote relay implanted in his head, networked to every single implanted enforcer in the low end. A shudder runs through you. Is he even in control? Or has SNARP wormed its way into the man? Could he even be considered separate from the corporation itself? You think of your own legal status as proprietary technology, a puppet with cut strings. Time to cut Yannick's strings, then. You reach around inside the cradle and find it. A remote connection, a tiny bead of a transmitter, likely controlling the link to SNARP. There it is. You pause for a moment, and then you squeeze it, snap it from the frame, and it crumples, sparks, and dies. It takes a moment before the shouts come, before the scream, and you're already on your way out, down the corridor, down through the unit that serves as the lobby of the Yannick's office. And then, out onto the walkway where Yannick lies still, enforcers gathered around him bemused. Roach. You push through the crowd, and there he is, still, crumpled. You arrange him a little, lie down properly, feeling how thin his body is under the suit. You wonder how long he's been like this, a puppet for SNARP. With the connection cut, nothing remains but his body, which means that Yannick, the man, was gone a long time before now. You place a hand on his chest. You're sorry for him, but it's done. And you did not kill this man. You've seen enough. The connection is cut, and whatever Yannick was, or had become, is gone. Your anger is a hard core in your chest, and all of it's focused on SNARP. Interesting. So we notice the thing that I was concerned about. The ability to get stabilizer relatively cheaply appears to, at least for now, be gone. We'll see. We shall see. Fortunately, the scrap components is not the worst thing. Generally speaking, that would only cost a single die. Sure, a high-end die, but higher-end die. But usually we have those. Let's check and see if Moritz has anything. Looks like the answer is no. Not a huge deal. And I think in some ways that's probably the safest way to spend smaller quantities of dyes. Actually, where is Endure? This is Endure. I'm gonna grab that, and then next time we get a point, just drop it in there. We're waiting on that, we're waiting on that. That one's relatively low priority, mostly that just gives us food. And the food's nice, don't get me wrong, but I mean, also the money is kind of irrelevant right now. Yeah, I guess it's not super safe. Could, you know, it's set at risky, so. Yeah, I mean, minus energy, not a huge deal. The general case is that it's going to be decent money. But again, that kind of begs the question at this point. What's money really worth it to us? So 4 for that, 2 for the other. I'm just gonna grab 2 scrap, and then I think we'll go get this started. You came, Peak smiles as you walk into the Climbing Briar's cargo hold, carrying behind a gloomy Ash. They brought mushrooms. Ash tosses the mushroom caps onto a crate, raising her eyebrows at Peak. Thank you, Sleeper. I pick one up and sniff at it. Are these edible? Yes. Peak turns the cap over in their fingers before putting it down. We're not so used to fresh produce. Ash is securing crates as she speaks. Doesn't look up. Hawthorne doesn't have much in the way of farming. Hawthorne? The installation we grew up on. Ash wipes her hands off on a rag. XPR loves to name their property after natural things, but that's about as far as their relationship with plant life goes. XPR? Is an interrogation? She glares. Either way, we're done with that place, which is all you need to know. And if you are, like me, unfamiliar with Hawthorne, I actually ran into something the other day. You might be more familiar with the name Whitethorn, which is the name that I was familiar with, but that might be a West Coast thing. Ash leans back against the crate she was securing. We're gonna need more than a few mushrooms if we want to help those refugees, though. Well, what do they need? Food, water, components, a lot of things. Ash stands and walks over to the mushrooms he brought, placing them into a small container with care. The problem isn't just getting them supplies, though. It's getting them through to the ships. Can't you speak to Haven Age? We aren't exactly welcome guests, Peak explains. If anyone figures out we came in with the refugee ships, we'll be quarantined as well. Why is there a quarantine? Peak jumps in. The Eye has a closed-loop life support system, just like any orbital installation. Any unfamiliar illness or significantly increased strain on life support could cause a cascading collapse in systems. Ash scoffs. Are we making excuses for these bureaucrats now? We're being realistic, Ash. But these people aren't in increased strain. They're living people. Even calling them refugees is just a way of turning a lot of scared, desperate people into a single monolithic group. Well, Gareth certainly, understands his audience. Ash slides a container full of mushrooms into one of the... understands their audience. That was my fuck up. Ash slides a container full of mushrooms into one of the cargo holds racks. Look, as much as I'd like to chat, we've still got a lot of space to fill in this hold. So if you're gonna help, I think Ash is trying to say we need your help. And quickly. Peak says, glancing at her. I did not notice the period there. That's why that ended kind of weirdly. Refugees behind the cordon, they won't be able to hold out indefinitely. We need to get supplies to them in the next 12 cycles or so. Ash steps forward. Or Haven Age will have to bear the responsibility for whatever happens next. Well, what can I do? There's 3 things we still need to secure. Water, food, and scrap components for ship repairs. Fuck. Ash gestures to the storage containers around the hold. Water we can find a way to source, or, my preference, just siphon off from the underground reservoirs in the Greenway. Ash For food, things could be tricky. Those mushrooms are delicious, I'm sure, but there's no way we can get enough volume to feed a flotilla. However, I saw an algae stack on the way over. If we can get access... Not more stealing, Ash. I didn't say steal. She stares at them indignantly. If we can get access, we can work the stack, harvest some algae for the flotilla. Those stacks churn out vast quantities in short timescales. And the repair components? Just look around you, Peak. This whole place is made of scrap. I'm sure the Sleeper has their sources. They can bring them right here. You get everything before time runs out, perfect. You get most of it, also good. Either way, in 12 cycles, I'm going to take what we have and go. How you get through? Ash shoulders a container. I thought I'd leave that up to you, Peak. They flinch. Are you serious? Ash, I know we said we would help the flotilla, but at what point... They stop. Take a breath. Take this seriously, Ash. I don't know the first thing about breaching a quarantine cordon. Maybe not, but they might. They slipped out from an SNR facility, didn't they? Plus, they've been here longer than us. You're always trying to get me to find help. Well, here it is. Help. Pete glances between the two of you. I swear... I need to think this one through. Meet me at the cordon in a couple cycles, Sleeper. Maybe we can figure something out. Meanwhile, you can help me acquire the supplies. Discreetly. We have to keep this quiet. Keep Havenage out of the loop. Once they get suspicious, this is over for all of us. This all suddenly seems a little too real, too dangerous. You've only just found your feet on the eye. This is not a time for causing trouble. Come find us. We'll be out there trying to pull this all together. Ash goes to the back of the hold to start packing another container. Pete, come help me. Sleeper, look, we didn't choose this either. Help us finish this. We set up a base camp on the Broken Spoke. You're welcome to rest there in any of the cots while we work on this. We're in this together. Peek! Ash shouts, and they walk back into the hold to help with the container. As you leave the climbing briar, you look out at the broken edge of the eye's rings, where Haven Age's cordon blinks with tiny red lights. What are you getting yourself into? Okay, so that just works as a bed. Jesus. Jesus. Okay. Okay. Not ideal, but I'm gonna re-roll that last one. I like how threes consistently re-roll to threes. I should really just use the stabilizer. It'll give us 3 turns, 3 cycles of 5 energy. Not energy, dice. I'd prefer this to be a 3, but... or a 4, rather, to start. Okay. So we have the flotilla food stuff set aside. Oh, nice. That can give us a scrap item occasionally. And of course soon we'll need to hit up the cordon. Cordon? I should have also looked that word up to see how it's supposed to be pronounced. After this we're going to hit up the bar to make us up some matsutakes. I think I'm also gonna see if Memphis has any missions for us. He does not. But I want to do this before doing any work, just in case anything gives a minus energy. Even before you enter the office, you can hear the sound of Rabia working the heavy bag. She's hammering it, the chain creaking as it shakes with each hit. I can relate to that. Man, hitting a heavy bag's nice. It's nice and relaxing. She's been like this since... Sabine doesn't finish the sentence. We're sitting on a stool looking at the terminal in the corner, searching through the SNARP data you pulled all those cycles ago. Is she okay? Just angry. We all are. You have to remember she knew Yannick for a long time. Sabine glances nervously at Rabia. What SNARP did... Rabia stops punching. In the silence, you can hear her breathing hard. Sabine looks over at her and you can sense something between them. Realize you haven't seen them together since they tried to kill each other in the same unit. A lot's changed since then. They hooked him up like a puppet. Rabia hits the bag. Rigged that thing in his head so they could control him. Push the old Yannick out. I don't know why you let them in, Rabia throws a few more punches. But it's a lesson. Don't let them in. Another flurry. Yadigan shouldn't deal with corporations. And we never will again. She spits. She comes away from the bag. At least Yannick's death has been treated as natural. There's a chance we come back from this. The Yadigan can hold on. But there are opportunists trying to take control. Sabine turns to you. Yes, but now the connection's been broken. I've been looking at removing the trackers from the implants in Yadigan's enforcers. It's a significant job. But I think, with time, I can do the surgeries. Rabia walks away from the bag towards the far side of the unit. Those surgeries will never happen if Yadigan collapses. She shouts back at Sabine. Clearly this is a well-worn argument in this unit. Will Yadigan really collapse? I don't think so, no. Rabia doesn't either. You look over her, at least not when she's calm. What I understand now is that Yadigan can be something else if we want it to be. Coming here from SNARP, from the core worlds, all I saw was a gang. And with Yannick keeping me on a tight leash, they shudder. Rabia believes, and I want that belief. They look unsure. I also want to be done with SNR, but I doubt they're done with me. They glance away, rubbing their shoulders. Are you and Rabia? Sabine fixes you with a look. Yes, sleeper. Isn't that obvious? They smile. I've been wanting to say, Sabine begins nervously. I'm sorry I didn't tell you where I came from. I know I apologized before, but I want to again. They pause. Properly. When I leaked the data on the sleeper program, it was to try to help people like you. They grit their teeth, but after all the cycles here, being pushed down, pushed away, trying to survive, all that got away from me. So when you turned up, it shook me up. They run a hand through their hair, but I ended up here, so... They look at Rabia. Oh, of course, they reach into a pocket and take out a handful of vials. These are the last of the case, you can have them. They drop them into your hands. After these last few, I don't know what we can do. With the SNARP connection broken, they look down, but I know there are other ways. Repairs, other pharmaceuticals. I even heard there's some labs on the Greenway. Perhaps they can help? Dimitra, I'm sorry I can't do more. No, thank you for everything. Look away, their eyes bright with tears. Rabia crosses back to you both and sits beside Sabine. They look at each other. You can't help but smile at the idea of them together. What are you two plotting? Rabia grins. Sabine laughs and sounds a welcome one. You watch the two of them teasing each other. Smile. Later, when you leave, you take that handful of vials out of your pocket and look at them. You can still feel that core of anger deep down inside, and you don't know if it'll ever leave. But SNARP doesn't own you anymore. They can't, because this place, these people, own you. They're what makes you get up every morning. They're what keeps you breathing. Though, as the game has also established, we don't need to breathe. But we would feel like we were drowning without it. You put the vials away, walk through the low end. Your sense is tuned to every sight, every smell, every sound, soaking it all in. Living. Enduring. That wasn't planned or nothing. That was kind of just fortuitous. I guess with a positive one, it doesn't alert him. I don't know. But it's not a huge deal as long as we can do hack sensors. Yeah, it looks like it's just positive, doesn't alert him. Neat. Oh yeah, we have this up here with Peek. Sleeper! Peek catches your attention from the shadowy corner they're leaning against. Any trouble getting up here? This place is huge. It certainly is. Haven Age have been busy. Come, take a look at this. They beckon you over to a nearby window which looks across the ruined ring of the blinking red lights of the Haven Age cordon. Cordon structure, temporary structures, and then a metal struts meant to detect and dissuade any ship from entering or leaving the flotilla. Jets jet out into black, and all around tugs flit, securing them in place and tending to the red blinking drones that demark the quarantine. It's an impressive and worrying sight. What do you think? Peek interrupts your thoughts. How would you get through? Use one of the tugs. As an escort, you mean? Doubt we could fit all the supplies on one of those tugs, but if it seems like the Briar was being officially escorted through the cordon... Peek squints at the red lights, but then we'd be stuck inside. Peek turns away from the window and rubs their forehead. Ash has really wrapped us up in something here, hasn't she? The question is spoken under their breath, and they don't seem to expect an answer. The silence grows. Are there other options? If you've got them, I'm happy to hear them, Peek smiles. The way I see it, there are 3 parts to making it through the cordon. Gesture out the window at the strange structure. Deception, distraction, and speed. We'll need all of them for a clean passage through. Deceptions means tricking the cordon security into thinking that we're meant to be there. Maybe a tug escort would work? Anything that makes the Briar look official. Distraction, meanwhile, would be all about diverting attention so that no one looks too hard at what we're doing. We can create a gap in the cordon's scanning and deterrent systems. That should keep him busy. Finally, speed will be making sure the Briar's ready to roll. Perhaps we can do a little work on the ship to get her ready? Ash surely wouldn't mind. Lean back from the window. How does that sound? Excellent. Don't get too excited. There's a lot to get sorted before we make the run. 10 cycles left. They glance out of the window at the cordon nervously. 10 cycles to gather supplies and prep this plan. It's tight. Very tight. If this goes wrong, just get out, okay? Squeeze your shoulder. I'll follow Ash anywhere. But you don't need to get dragged down with us. Won't come to that. Of course, but just keep it in mind. Let's get to it. Tell Ash about the improvements to the Briar, and the rest, well, let's explore the cordon as best we can, look for openings. No idea what Guardian's Angel sent you to a sleeper, but I'm very glad they did. So, we need to get these in. Interface or engage, either ways, it's the same. think for the moment we'll be running on scraps just to keep us at 5 cycles. 5, I keep saying cycles, 5 die. 5 dice. Dice. Let's finish off the water. Yeah, 5 and a 4 will do that. Okay, so we're a third of the way there. Tucked into a service quarter deep below the reservoir, Ash is double-checking the seals in the water tanks loaded onto the motorized trolley. Though you're far enough away from any thoroughfares not to worry about being overheard, you both still speak in hushed tones. All good? Ash nods silently, hits the ignition on the trolley to start it moving. You take the other side of the trolley and walk it up the wide service corridor with its flickering lights and Solheim detritus. You doubt it gets used by Haven Age, at least that's the hope. You glance across at Ash, her face a mask of determination as she guides the trolley along. Maybe some conversation will make this journey go a little easier. How'd you meet Peak? Ash pauses, a little bit surprised by your question. She glances back down the tunnel, but in this deserted passage, she can hardly keep up the pretense of silence. We grew up together. She answers quickly, turns back to the trolley, but she can tell you're expecting her to add more. She seems to gather herself for an answer, not wanting to ignore you, but trying to instead get her answer straight in her head. Our outpost, Hawthorne, it's not an easy place to grow up on. The administrator keeps a tight hold of everything. Even though they're trapped in the same decaying installation as everyone else. Peak found it harder than most. I stepped in to help him out. Silence descends again, but you can feel the wheels turning in Ash's mind as the creaking wheels of the trolley take you along the corridor. Peak isn't the most practical of people. They used to be, well, they needed someone to teach them to look after themselves, stand up for themselves. That was me. After that, I couldn't get rid of them. Ash stops talking, but you can see her eyes have lit up. Imagine she's recalling some moment or other from her and Peak's past. You both reach a wide bulkhead doorway and have to stop to shimmy the trolley over the edge. When you're done, Ash turns to you. I'm good from here. Head back. And with that, she's gone, moving off into the dark tunnel ahead. You watch her go and turn around and walk the distance back to the staircase you entered from, tunnel humming around you as you do. As you walk back, you try to piece together Ash's past, but all you have are glimpses of a person she once was. She seems to prefer it that way. And if we click here, we should have 1 of 3. Yes. But we still need to get these. Oh hey, at some point something we did gave us a point of condition. So I will not need to use the scrap for that. That's good. Ah. Rika has something in her hands when you enter the lab. Looks like a knotted twist of woody stems, a ring about the circumference of a human head, consisting of a single stalk at one side and a branched woven network at the other. As you approach, she holds it up, and in the lights of the lab, it looks like a crown. Rico finishes your thought. She smiles and shakes her head in disbelief. Is that what grew? It is. I came to the plant this morning and this loop was all that was there. She points to a lump on the edge of the ring. The seed grew right back into itself, twisted up out of the soil. That being you encountered in the cloud, as you call it, was it wearing one of these? She eyes you suspiciously, still unsure if she's somehow embroiled in an overlong prank. No. She sighs. I suppose that would be too easy, she smiles to herself. A root crown. She places the object on the bench and shuffles to her analysis terminal, her face lit by its amber light in the dim corner of the lab. Well, it isn't exactly a plant anyway, from what I can tell. She gives you a serious look. No leaves, no chloroplasts, just a series of filaments encased in cellulose walls. How did it grow? It seemed the seed contained everything it needed, a self-contained entity, nothing less. She beckons you over, but that isn't the good part. Look at this. You see a cross-section scan of the crown. There is a plant-like structure on full view until you reach the center. There, instead of xylem and phloem for transferring nutrients, something branched and woven glints. Are those wires? She laughs. I'm not sure whether to say yes or no here. They're not wires like those in an electrical system, no, but they're filaments of a conductive material, so yes? She leans closer to the screen, but you see those branches? They're reminding you of dendrites, of neurons. She rubs her eyes, which is frankly ridiculous. You look back at the crown on the table as Rico fusses over the scans, and you suddenly realize what it reminds you of. Remember signing the forms, the walk to the sleeper tanks, the cold metal floor. And remember the crown they fitted you with, the branching structure of wires and pads. No, not a crown. They called it an interface. The tool of your emulation, your transference, from neurons to electrons. An interface. This is your gift from Gardner. You turn back to Rico. It's an interface. Rico looks at you puzzled. Something clicks in her mind. Perhaps something she heard from the sleeper she had helped all those cycles ago. She starts talking, partly to you, partly to herself. If the club heads were made for you, then this too could be made for you, for your frame. She shuffles over quickly to the interface, a word that's stuck to the strange branched object quickly in your mind. You're right, that entity, it is the entity I've been looking for. She shuffles quickly to the crown. They are the entity which is controlling the Greenway, which has been maintaining it, supporting it, and has been guiding it for all these decades. She stops to catch her breath. They want to talk with you. Rico leads you to a seat. I'll be here, sleeper. If something happens, if you wish me to remove the crown, the interface, just squeeze. She grips your hand tightly. You meet her eyes, clouded with age, but bright with the thrill of new discoveries. Then she places the interface on your head, and everything blinks out. Back into the river, into the dark flow. But something is different now. You're no longer pushed, no longer blocked and buffeted by the storm. Instead it flows around you. You move, and it parts, letting you pass. Something else resists, but it gives easily enough. You look back and see your body. You have left it behind. Somewhere, Rico's voice is talking to you, asking you questions. It is excited, eager, desperate to know what lies on the other side, what the entity has to say to you. You realize how long she has waited for this moment, for the moment of meeting between the inhabitants of the Greenway and its protector. And yet, she is still on the outside. You shake off the sadness. You will be her eyes, and you see the figure, Gardner, out in the storm, planting. It takes less than a moment to reach them. You've never felt so free. This is how Navigator must have felt, released from their prison. This, you think, is what it feels like to be in the place you were built to inhabit. Gardner does not turn at your approach. They go on planting, but their voice whispers in the waters like a sharply rising current. You grew the gift. Their speech hisses around you. Good. I'm glad to meet you. Then we are the same, both eager shoots seeking one another. How does it feel to be free of your seed? They stoop to plant again. My seed? That in which you were contained, from which you will grow. There was some disagreement, continues Gardner, as if you were picking up on a long-held conversation. with the others. They felt you were a danger, but they're always cautious, especially the fungi. They like old loam, known knowns, wide and stable connections. Fungi were cautious? Mostly, yes, although there are many among their number who favor short growth cycles. Thick nutrient veins, sudden shifts. He gestures out into the storm, and though you cannot see them, you feel presences all around, sensing this audience with great interest. After all, they understood that it was I who made them their crowns, and without them, they would not have joined the chorus. So they see that it is only fair that they get your chance to join too. Join? Yes, become part of this. Gardener stoops again. We are millions, and we grow. I hope you understand. I'm unused to speaking to your kind. It's been many cycles since my last conversation. I think it was with Chief Executive Trellick himself. You look around and you see it. Every growing thing, every non-human being in the Greenway is here. They're networked, connected, branched, and linked by this strange being. This artifact of the old station. This impossible dream of a senile farm administration AI. A living network. You could dissolve here, you realize, free of that decaying body. You wouldn't need to be a person. Why would you, among all these other minds? You turn away from the gardener for a moment and look back at your body. A tiny hairline thread connects it to you. You hear Rico's voice again, still asking, still checking in. Are you okay, Sleeper? What are they saying, Sleeper? Are you still there, Sleeper? Something in you sighs a long sigh. A sigh that speaks of an exhaustion beyond tiredness, an exhaustion rooted deep inside you. It stems from the effort of answering questions, of answering problems, of getting up and breathing each cycle. But something else resists the sigh, a yearning, a sense of distance, desire to squeeze that hand that holds you for its warmth, its blood, its complexity. To make a gesture that says, I'm still here, I'm still alive, and I'm still with you. The two ideas spin within you, making you nauseous. If you break that thread, you will be free. Free to dissolve here, to grow strange and beautiful among a million others. If you follow it, if you squeeze Rico's hand, you will wake up back in that dying body with all the pain and warmth that entails. Now is the moment to choose. Your eyes track the thread across the whirling dark back to your body. This choice, you realize, will not be presented again. And I would be tempted to take it, were it not for the fact that we have things we still need to do. You don't look back at the dark gardener. You don't dare risk it. Instead, you follow the thread, delicately, carefully, like a diver following their lifeline back to the surface. The river whirls around you, but it doesn't pull. It isn't jealous. Neither does it understand. It is, after all, just a river. It isn't a person, a flesh and blood person, with wants, with desires, with the capacity for love and hate. It doesn't understand you, and you don't understand it. So you don't focus on it. You don't think about it, on what feels like such a long journey back through the darkness. You set your mind on eyes instead, on hands, things you can focus on, hold on to. And then, after an age of crossing, you're there, settling back into the chair, into a body in a chair, and the overwhelming sensations that come with being a living thing with a rich and detailed sensorium. For a moment, you feel like you've made a terrible mistake. Who would choose this weight, this anxiety, this deep well at the center of existence? But then you feel it. Rico's hand gripped hard around yours, trembling a little, sweating a little. Rico's hand with its brittle bones and crumpled skin. Rico's hand. In that moment, you understand why you made this choice. And then you squeeze Rico's hand, and you wake up. And then we get credits again. Sleeper, Rico's voice comes wavering through the dark. Are you still with me? You sit up, the lab a bright green glare that fades as you gather yourself. I'm here. Rico smiles. She squeezes your hand. I thought you'd left me for a moment. What? She pauses. Who? She smiles. Tell me about it. Tell me everything. Tell her the truth. You tell Rico everything. You tell her about the gardener, that strange farm administrator AI. It's grown to be so much more. About the chorus, that impossible configuration of networked plants. And finally, about the choice the gardener offered you. She listens attentively, but her responses are hard to read, and you wonder if she might have made a different decision had she been in your place. Thank you, Sleeper, for telling me. I know it's not easy to say such things. People so often don't want to hear such strange truths. She looks away. And thank you for returning to me, though I know you had your own reasons. She squeezes your hand reassuringly. Something passes between you then. Kind of shared sadness for the impossible choice. The choice to escape your body or to stay and suffer it. Her smile's warm, generous. Whatever the wisdom of your choice, you're glad to feel welcome in this moment, in this place. Suddenly, she stands and walks a little away. As if trying to escape an unpleasant thought, you worry that she knows all too well what it takes to make a choice like you did. Rico sighs. So Sleeper, do you plan to stay in the commune with us? For a while. Glad to hear it. Rico crosses back over to you, takes one of your hands in both of hers. Haifa needs new blood if it wants to survive, and... She squeezes. You're a good friend. Feelings mutual. Well, don't let me keep you. Rico waves you away and limps back to her terminal. As she does, you notice the crown in her hand. She places it on the bench with great care. You can't help but feel a little curious about what she intends to do with it. Then you're out, breathing the air of the greenway. Fresh as a spring morning, the dappled light makes a patchwork of the greening landscape, and you walk into it, sensing the movement of the gardener's chorus all around. You're glad to be here, in this strange and beautiful place, a little longer. Oh, okay, so there needs to be algae in order for us to get... Okay, I get it. Although, strictly speaking, that was unnecessary. Nice. So we also are going to need to put in some work on the ship, although I'm not entirely certain how. Yeah, maybe once we have gotten these things done, we will, You're leaning against the metal crates you just loaded up with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Ash hops onto one beside you, flexing her aching back. Hope the refugees like algae. Ash squints at you, as though you just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you've become familiar with. It doesn't matter either way, this is what we got. She sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In these past cycles, working the algae stack with Ash, a little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation. It's always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something's grown between you, something like silent trust. The kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soil of hard but necessary work. Something I've been meaning to ask. Well, the flotilla. Ash pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you built. You can see her begin to shrug the question off, then she thinks. Stops, rethinks, and sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlen's Eye wasn't the only place where Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation. That didn't screen it from Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason the XPR were ever here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. They are a service corp, you understand? Set up outposts, surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics, and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures to the eye around her, like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client, and Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on. Keep the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outpost stable, hold on to our claim. She rubs at her head, as if recalling all of this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it's like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory, to sure up breach of contract negotiations between two corporations. It's like living in a she searches for the word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave, she clenches her hands. So, if you're looking for the answer to why questions, that's your answer. Peak and I, we know what it's like to be forgotten. To be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the stack, algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns. She doesn't look away. Silence extends and you realize the conversation is over. Esh seems angry, not at you, but with herself for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates onto the powered cargo trolley that Esh will run back to the Briar. As you do, you try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. Okay. So we have that, and we need to get 3 more scrap. I suppose we will start using the stabilizer from this point. It's risky to do this. Fuck it, let's just grab food here from the stacks. A little bit of cash. I do think this is going to be it for me. I'm not going to end up finishing with this stuff. It's 50-50. I mean, even the positive one is not, strictly speaking, positive. But let's make us some matsutake mushrooms. And then so we don't accidentally end up using our scrap when we get back. Use a stabilizer and end cycle. Anyway, like I said, that's going to be it for me.